Aviation-Quest.cc 101, wind 270 degrees, 10 knots, runway 27 left, cleared for takeoff.
Aviation-Quest.cc 101, cleared for takeoff 27 left. V1, rotate. Positive climb.
Aviation-Quest.cc, stories from above. The views shared in this podcast are personal and for informational purposes only. They do not reflect any employer or aviation authority, and nothing discussed here should be considered flight training or regulatory guidance. Please always refer to official sources. This episode may also contain product placement. For further information, visit our website aviation-quest.cc.
This is already the 14th Aviation Quest CC podcast. My name is Jürgen Reis. I'm one of your two hosts here in the podcast cockpit, and the other podcast pilot in command, Stefan. Thank you, the A320 pilot, as usual, on the other side of the line. Thank you.
Hey, Jürgen, how are you today? All good?
All good, all good. Yeah, winter, a little bit winter coming in, but I think we have really an amazing and also, yeah, you can put this topic into every destination you want, even to the Maldives, to make make the listeners already a little bit curious. No, it's really a little bit a milestone today, I think, for the podcast, because our goal from the beginning on was to invite guests, and here we are, our first guest.
Yes, indeed, and a very interesting person. And yeah, I think it's a really good podcast which covers a lot of things that you and I so far have never covered, because of course our guest is someone who has expertise that neither you or I really have.
Yeah, we just discussed in a short private conversation before we recorded that he absolutely doesn't sound like 68. So he is 68 years super young. His name is Christoph Barszczewski, and he is flying seaplanes and even teaching, still teaching actively in Austria and in Poland. And yeah, as you said, float plane experience, I guess it's a rare thing. It's really maybe also art of flying on its own. What's your take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Something I know nothing about. I've never tried it.
Have you tried it in a simulator,
Uh,
in flight sim?
Actually, I think once or twice, but to be honest, it didn't go really well. So,
I think
so
same with me.
yeah, I think it's a lot harder than it looks. In any case, I thought super interesting. Also, his background, a lot of bush flying in Africa and stuff like that. Very interesting life, very interesting career. So I'm really looking forward to hearing it again.
Yeah, and certainly Alaska. I mean, imagine a mirror-like lake, sunset, and you, so to say, float in with a butter smooth landing with a seaplane, and then maybe enjoy the evening, campfire, camp dinner, tent, and the next morning in the golden hour, up again to some other remote lake. I think this could be a bucket list item of many pilots, huh, Stefan?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, and also from my side, because just so listeners understand, I'm afraid I wasn't available for the interview, so Jürgen conducted the interview on his own, and yeah, I listened to it afterwards, and from my side, really well done interview, really good questions. Thank you also for relaying my questions, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope our listeners will enjoy it as well.
And yeah, to get this covered in the intro, we speak after the interview a couple of minutes again, Stefan. But I was just, I already forget really. This was really good luck, because I was just thinking I could say the same thing like you often say in your FS clips videos without further ado. But we have a YouTube channel also, at the Aviation Quest CC, even so we are audio cast, but there is Aviation Quest podcast, so with a dash in the middle, Aviation-Quest podcast. And thanks of you, Stefan, there is also to this episode, I think, a real world airliner flight in the background.
Yes, if you watch on YouTube, as always, you will see a real world flight. I decided to do something a bit more relaxed. I challenged myself quite a bit the last few times with aircraft I didn't actually know, into airports I didn't know. So today we're going to do something that I've done in the real world many, many, many times, and we'll be flying from Palma de Mallorca and Airbus A320 to Paderborn in Germany.
Sounds also there some like some over water flying. But yeah, now finally, without further ado, here is the main part with seaplane pilot and flight instructor Christoph Barszczewski. Well, I'm super excited. It's the very, very first guest interview. Christoph Barszczewski, you are our premier guest here on aviation-quest.cc. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. I'm very glad to hear that I'm the first. And it's a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Yeah. Christoph, just to give us a little bit an overview about your life. So I think when I say retired, flight instructor, float plane pilot, and ambitious not only to fly in Austria, but also in Poland and Alaska, I think I'm on the right track, huh? So to say, you're living the aviation dream.
Yes, that's true. And there is some way behind me, couple of years on decades. Fortunately, I made it. I started to dream about flying as a child, and together with my brother, I started to build flying models, that stuff. And looking now back, fortunate I made it. It was not very easy way. I have a few curves on my way of life, but bringing to the point, I started to fly as I was 40. It was a little bit late to start a classical career as an airline pilot. Fortunately, I made it. Suddenly, I was in Africa doing some flying projects for research projects like counting humpback whales or dugongs. Don't ask me what dugong is. That was my first question by this job. And I asked it because you have no clue normally what the dugong is. And that was the first step. Then came some ballads around us between Zambia and Mozambique. That I decided to come back to Austria a little bit frustrated, of course. And a friend of mine told me, I go for Alaska. Maybe you wanna go with me too. And that was the fortunate invitation.
From one adventure to the other.
Yes, yes. Because the point is, if you start as late, so some career paths are already closed, yeah, usually. But it doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to realize your dreams another way. Just as a friend of mine is saying always, if you don't find a way straight ahead, look for another way around. And that was fortunately for me. And of course, maybe short about this time. So I have been flying bush planes in Africa, and finally in Alaska for about, let me think, more or less 10 years. Before I started to learn how to fly seaplanes in Alaska, because that's a need for that. That was a need for that, and it's actually, if I give you an example for imagination, there is a big seaplane base named Lakewood Seaplane Base close to Anchorage, and there are something like about 600 seaplanes registered as a home base there.
Sounds like a seaplane city.
Yeah, that's more or less, you're right. It looks from the air or from the ground like a seaplane heaven or seaplane city. And I had been flying seaplanes for about 5 years. When I was asked from friends to teach them, because I never had idea to teach people how to fly. I was busy and happy enough, and I was teaching another things in my young childhood, in my young age in Poland before escaping communistic Poland. I was working, for example, as a guitar teacher, and the funny story about teaching guitar, how to play guitar or how to land seaplane, there are some similarities.
Okay.
Because you have, of course, you have to have some knowledge, but on the other hand, you have to memorize some movements for your muscles and automatize that. And that's the point. It is similar for both directions. Independent, if you learn to use your muscles for steer the airplane or play guitar, but it's another story. Okay, so that is in short term. And now, okay, I've got retired, and now retired, it means a lot to do with seaplane student pilots, because don't ask me why, there are many of them and there are only few instructors doing it in Europe. So I enjoy it, and I how to say, I have already infected numerous European pilots from countries Austria, Poland, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, or Luxembourg with this seaplane bug. And it means on the other sides, I continue that. For example, I have already organized something crazy and unusual in Austria, because it's because of bureaucracy. It is a little bit difficult, but I
Okay.
organized already 6 times since let me think, 2015 was the first time, an international seaplane meeting in Austria on very small, very difficult sea. Because the people there are very, very nice, and they make it possible. And the seaplane meeting has named Seaplane Meeting Stubenbergsee, so Stubenberg Lake, and the southeastern Styria, Austria. It's let me say, that's the end of the Alps on the eastern sides, yeah. And this is a very small lake, and we will make it the seventh time already next year, hold this meeting with some guests, maybe couple guests from Switzerland, Germany, Italy, as always. So this is short story.
Christoph, I guess this interview will be online by the beginning of 2026. I mean, why don't you plug yourself right on this minute? Where can people find information about this awesome seaplane meeting? Because this would be, I think, for a lot of our listener, maybe a dream coming true.
Okay, the information mostly in German will be found on my homepage, seaplanes.at.
And I mean,
This
there
is
is also your telephone number. I think you are quite accessible. And as the listeners here, you also speak very good English. So, I mean, this is, I think, already, also there's an email address. I think you are quite a straightforward, so to say, retired full time pilot.
Yeah, there is something, you're right, and thank you for your compliment. My English start to be a little bit rusty, because I learned in on the jobs, and now I'm already. Yeah, this is unusual year, because normally I was always spending summer season flying in Alaska,
Certainly, yeah.
seaplanes.
Yeah.
But due to my retirement, now I spend a lot of summertime in Poland, where we teach how to fly seaplanes instead on Alaska. So my English starts to be a little bit rusty. And the only one possibility, I was longer in the States, was last autumn 2024. Because of my last book, my third book I have written about very, very unusual American pilot.
Yeah, it's. I mean, also information about your books can be found on your homepage, and you are for me really This is crazy. I mean, you were, correct me, stop me if I'm wrong with something here, but you were for decades full time in the IT business, and after retirement, I don't know since when are you, may I ask you how old are you in the moment, right now?
No, okay. I to tell the truth, I was part time, so I managed it. That was a very lucky
Ah,
situation for me that I was in IT and I was flying.
okay.
Mostly in season because seasons in Alaska are very short. So you have no a lot of work out of the season. On very
Okay.
hard jobs.
So you were part-time IT, part-time pilot, and then yeah. How old are you in the moment?
Um, how old you mean?
Yes, yes.
Uh, I am very young. I feel very young. No, I will be get 68.
Yeah,
Next year.
because why I'm asking is this is also for every listener now, maybe in its 40s, thinking about becoming a pilot. I think quite a signal that there are a lot of years left for adventure flying and maybe not becoming an airline pilot, but of other things to do in aviation. This is why I was asking. I mean, this is awesome, and I mean the way you sound and the way your ambition spreads over. I think you are planning to do this until until you are 100.
Okay, we will see. But the good point. I think a lot about that. The aviation has very big influence of my life, and a lot of people. Uh, Independent what are you doing in the aviation, but for example, the first point, if you fly as a pilot, uh, you are a little bit you had a little bit different approach to yourself. You are looking mostly better about yourself, about your health, because there is something to lose if you drink too much, if you smoke too much, and if you don't look about your body, you can lose your medical,
Yeah,
and that stops the thing. Yes, of course, if you do it for the profession, is of the on the other side some kind of pressure, but that's good because it brings you to the point where you start to think, okay, should I do anything bad for me, for my health, or look a
certainly.
little bit about. That's for example one side effect from being a pilot.
Christoph, from the good things for your body and for your personality, let's go to the good things. What float plane flying is or might be doing for normal pilots. What do you think? This is also a question that came from Stefan. What does water plane license holder, yeah, where's the benefit for normal pilots who fly fixed landing gear or normal planes? And is there even, Stefan added the point, is there even a benefit airline pilots can benefit from an additional rating in, it's the SEP, so EASA class seaplane C water plane rating that you teach?
Okay, that's a very nice question. And can you answer this question for me? Because I'm very surprised. Let me explain. If I have 100 student pilots coming for me, maybe 2 or 3 do it or need it for the profession directly. So a former student pilot of me is flying, for example, in Maldives. Another one is flying for Red Bulls, and there are only few of them. So and on the other hand, there are pilots who come to me are, for example, private pilot, business pilots, cargo pilots, airline pilots. So quite different. So we have to start to think why. And I can't answer for everybody. I can imagine what the people are talking to me about then, because of course I'm interested to ask. And one of the answers is somebody comes, maybe is flying privately with in age 50 or 60 and a little bit frustrated with flying always the same routes, always the same airplanes, and he will realize the dream of his life, of his childhood. So there are some people doing just for that. But on the other hand, very good point is, first of all, flying seaplanes is challenging. It's if you do it, the requirements for that in Europe are you have to train at least 8 hours, and 8 hours training on the seaplane is nothing, you know. So I am not able to make from you in 8 hours a bush pilot ready for Alaska. But what you learn are basic landing and takeoff tactics. What you learn is how to choose the area, how to calculate risks and stuff like this. And this is always good for pilots, I think. And this curve, the learning curve, is very steep, because you can imagine we make something like 50, 60 outdoor landings. So one of benefits, there was pilot telling me that helped him. He had to make with land plane an emergency landing, and because of all of the training with seaplanes, it was not absolutely panic situation. He managed it very well without injuries and without ruining the airplane. So that can be a benefit too. And on another point is this is absolutely quite opposite kind of flying if you compare it to, for example, to instrument flying, IFR flying. Because what we have to do, we have always to look outside and to feel our body sensing us signals about landing, is everything good or not, about situation. So this is a little bit opposite. As one cargo pilot told me, this is back to real flying, you know what I mean? That is maybe few suggestions what I hear from the pilots.
Thank you. By the way, land plane pilot was certainly the word I was figuring around before. It doesn't matter if you have fixed gear or retractable gear. I mean, I think when you have to ditch on water in an emergency, a license like this could be weight its worth in gold. What do you think? I mean, at least it's an advantage.
Yes, yes. And I didn't say two very important points. Additionally, first point, there is training about responsibility, because with seaplanes we land 99.9% landings. There are outdoor landings, not regular airports. There are nobody telling you what to do. So this is how to learn to make decision by yourself, to get responsibility, get, of course, the big fun. On the other side, big responsibility about and what are you doing, you know? That's the first point. And second point, very interesting. I don't know, is it good to tell it? Sometimes if the people ask me what about training, teaching seaplanes, I answer, no, this is terrible, you know. You have to learn so much. You are always stressed. And that's, of course, the joke. But because on the other side, after maybe 1 or 2 first hours training, where for everybody it's everything very unusual, after this 1 or 2 hours, the big fun begins, you know. And sometimes I have to problems to stop the pilots in the progress. If we go, for example, already to check for many different lakes, to stop to remember, look at the tanks. We have to finish and go back home, otherwise we run out of the fuel. You know.
So you make the people seaplane addicted. But
Yeah.
give us, maybe if this is possible in a minute or two, give us an overview. How do you land? a seaplane or a float plane in a remote lake in Alaska? I mean, how do you determine the wind? And there are so many factors and make sure that it's safe. How do you do this? For me, it's still somehow a crazy way of flying, and especially the landing. There must be really, certainly, you need a lot of experience. I think an important point was this 8 hours doesn't make you a Bosch pilot. I think this was an important takeaway. But back to my question, how do you do this in practice?
Okay, there is of course experience, and to tell the truth, the airplane doesn't know does it fly in Alaska, in Poland, in Austria, because aerodynamics and hydrodynamics work everywhere the same way, you know? So, first of all, if you say Alaska, it doesn't matter. Is it in Alaska you learn? Of course, there are differences, local differences about flying in areas. Maybe we talk later, but basically, the aerodynamics are the same, and you have to learn first of all, for example, to check distance, to check the conditions, which techniques you have to use on the particular landing, because we talk about different landings, like let me name glassy water landings, normal regular landings, or rough water landings. So maybe you hear from these terms already there are limits of pilot and limits of the airplane, because if the waves are too big for your airplane, so you should not land on this particular place. If you are scary about the waves there, maybe your airplane can manage it, but maybe your skills are not sharp enough. You know, so that's the point. There are many factors. Yes,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, very interesting. We have a sentence saying the glassy water landings make harder job for the pilots, and rough water landings make a harder job for the airplane, because it stresses very much airplane rough water. And it's a difference if you land in rough water on a particular lake in Piper Cup or Beaver, because it can manage, each of them can manage different conditions. But that's the one point. So to check what are my skills, and what are what are the possibilities for the plane I'm already now flying. And then the part of the training is first of all to develop a look, to check the conditions. For example, what is very unusual for regular pilots, where you land on the normal strip, you have to choose your area, because there are no something like runways on the lakes or rivers. So you have to check for the wind, and to how to express it the right way. Let me express this way. I am a sailor. I in my young age I was sailing with sailing boats, and I learned how to read the water. And this is what you have to do if you start with your seaplane training, because if you land on the strip on the regular airport, you have maybe one or two windsocks. There are no windsocks on the lakes, but under normal condition, you see much better on the lake what the wind is doing on the surface. So you have just to learn to read it. You know, that's the point.
But yeah, I think you were already building a bridge to my next question, because you are teaching the EASA seaplane water rating. Is this correct, Christoph?
Yes, I do it
And
for European pilots.
and what happens now if somebody is adventurous and wants to fly maybe in Canada, in America, or in Alaska with this license? Is it possible, or is it another license over there, or?
No, first of all, we have to correct seaplane. It's not a license. The private pilot license or commercial
Sorry, it's an
pilot
add-on.
license are
It's an add-on
licenses.
to the private pilot. Yes,
Yeah,
this is I
the
think very
seaplane.
important. Very
This
important. Thank you for the
yeah
correction.
yeah. What we are talking about in your pilot license, you have different classes of for example, for airplanes that you can fly. For example, one class can be single engine piston land class. It can be multi-engine piston land, and similar, it can be seaplane. It can be single engine piston seaplane class. So what I do is not to bring the people to a new license, because you have to have at least private pilot's license, or commercial or airline, it doesn't matter, but you have to have a license. And what I do, I train you in the additional class named single engine piston C.
And certainly, if the private pilot is valid in, I think it depends. This is really here we
It,
are in the air law category. This is not my, but it is possible. You are the best proof to someone convert it, or maybe what did you have to do? Make separate check rights, or what's the normal procedure?
okay. Okay, I have many former student pilots are crazy. For example, in winter time or in the spring, where it's not possible to fly seaplanes here, they meet all together in Florida to fly seaplanes, to start the season in Florida. And they all, or most of them, have EASA licenses. And the question is how to do it. You can do it without any regulation, just you need a seaplane instructor there, or you can convert your European license into American. So you have not a full American license, but you have conversion. So this is another possibility too.
So also here, where's the will, so to say, if you want it, you get it.
Yeah.
It is possible to fly with this license. You also teach in the Maldives, in Florida, in
Yeah.
Hawaii, or in Alaska.
Yes, but to tell the truth, because this is very challenging kind of flying, the difficulty is to rent a seaplane. There are not many companies doing that because of insurance, you know. So if you are low-time seaplane pilot, you will not get the opportunity to rent without any flight instructor.
We
And
are
on
back
the
in the experience. We are back in the
yeah,
experience thing you told, in the beginning of the interview. I got it.
yeah, and on the other hand, look, if I go for the new region in the world, I ask for good seaplane pilot, local seaplane pilot too, because aerodynamics are the same, but there are many things that are quite different. Our conditions, for example, I teach in Poland where we have a lot of lakes, but quite different. And a lot of those lakes, we have, of course, big lakes like 7 kilometer long. Those lakes usually I use to start the training, but on the other hand, we have a lot of tricky, small, very narrow lakes, and you can land if you have the skill, and but you have to watch for that and learn how to do it. And for example, a colleague of mine was teaching in England, in Scotland, and the conditions there are quite absolutely different. Or if you fly in Norway, you have to look especially extensive on power lines in fjords and stuff like this. That is maybe different if you learned flying seaplanes on Como Lake and go for this region. And Alaska is different too because of this surrounding of these conditions, not the flying itself, but everything around the flying. You know,
I mean, I was just asking myself, as you know, I only flew motor gliders, but I was just asking myself, what if I wanted to fly another motor glider, maybe in Florida or in Norway? What would I do? I mean, approach the authorities or a flight school or both, list them the experience I have in which airplane, what licenses you have, and they tell you what to do. Isn't it that easy?
Okay, I can tell you only my way. I tried always to find very good pros. So
Yeah.
on this way, I learned in Alaska for pro pretty quite on short term how to fly seaplanes without killing myself on another, But of course, if you go in another part of the world like USA, you have to check for is it way to convert my license, and I I think it's always good to have somebody who help you to accommodate to local situation, local regulations,
Yeah.
and stuff like this.
So
Because,
ideally, a local flight instructor.
for example, yeah, or at least a colleague who is living there and who knows everything. That's another way, you know.
So, one of the last questions. I mean, you told us already about your seaplane meeting here in Austria, but what are your, so to say, is there something like a 5-year plan? Do you already, are you maybe already today Googling for the next flights to Alaska or the Maldives, or what are yours? So, what is your vision of flying? Let's keep it in the next, so throughout the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Oh, take it easy. I was always on schedule, on very, very, how to say, very close schedule. So now I enjoy to break a little bit more. Of course, there are something I do. As you know, I finished to write my third book and now promote it a little bit. On the other hand, at that time I have so many invitations around the world from my friends and former student pilots. So I have to go to Switzerland. I have go to visit my friends in Alaska, and that will be my program for the next years for sure. And of course, the seaplanes flying, because it's a big joy for me to see not children, but to see men smiling like children when they get your seaplane rating and this experience. So that's maybe a few points about that.
Sounds great. Yeah, my question is certainly where can people find information about your books? You run a couple of websites. Which is the best way to approach you and find more about your work and maybe also become a seaplane pilot with you as a flight instructor?
Okay, I have over the years a few homepages. As I already named, seaplanes.at is my homepage about the seaplane meetings, and on the other hand, all the information about this seaplane class, how to do on details. If somebody need it in English, because the homepage is mainly in German, no problem. Please send me information and I answer in English everything you need, or you call me. That's also seaplanes.at. The books of mine, because the first books were very close about bush pilots. The homepage is named in German bushpilot.at. And there is a source where you can buy my books, for example, with personal signing and stuff like this. Of course, the books are available through pilot shops. Actually, they are not available at amazon.at. Sorry for that, but I want to give a chance to normal bookstores and online shops, just to give European companies to do this job too. It will be later on Amazon by amazon.da, but later. And the third, my oldest homepage is aviator.at. It's this homepage that I built something like 25 years ago, just as notice for me myself, but it spread it down at that time. It spread it very much out, and the homepage was the source when I started to fly in Africa because of contact from Arte TV station. They asked me about. Bush pilot, a well-known bush pilot. They wanted to make a movie, and through this homepage, I contacted many people, and then 1 year later, I was already in Africa flying the stuff with dugongs.
Aviator ID is just in front of me on the browser, and this is not a homepage. This is a wealth of first-hand wisdom. This is crazy. This was don't know how much years.
Yes.
This is
And,
endless. This is endless information. So for
and
all the
yeah.
oh, this is an
And I
overview of
am
all the direct links, and this is endless. This is crazy. I
and
think
I
you
am
need
very
you
sorry.
need
Yeah.
days to get to this information.
Yeah, I'm very sorry that that is a very old design, but it's homemade. So I was the programmer to doing that, and I promised to me to renew design, but you know it's a lot of work, and I enjoy more flying with people and writing a book. So. That will be one of my projects to redesign this homepages to make them more actual because you are right, a lot of information there.
It still works, Christoph. It still works somehow.
Yeah.
Christoph, speaking of dedicated books, it's a pleasure for me to send to you my latest book. It's a mental power book or mental training book called Peak Mastermind. And as you know, I'm also offering as a coach, so to say, improvement for the physical or mental performance as well as for the mindset. And also had the privilege to have some pilots in my coaching team. And I wanted to give you, so to say, a digital voucher of 30 minutes coaching with me whenever you need some, maybe, yeah, some opinion of mine, or maybe even a mental coaching, whatever. If there is something I can do for you, just reach out for me. And as I said, 30 minutes coaching are, so to say, a pre-Christmas present to you in this end of November days.
Thank you greatly. I will come back to this offer. Maybe about coaching, how to make the seaplanes pilots better, and with more fun. Mhm.
Yeah, you give would be a new adventure for me. By the way,
Yes.
more about my coachings are also on our homepage under the menu item coaching. So this is at aviation-quest.cc on our homepage. But Christoph, thank you, thank you, thank you for every precious minute you spent with me and our listeners, certainly. And I hope also in the eastern part of Vienna or eastern part of Austria, it's quite a sunny day. Maybe some hop into a plane today, even possible.
No, unfortunately, we have a fog. Now it's better. It's starting to be better. But on the other side, I have some appointment with friend. You know, they wait for me for months to meet, and we use the opportunity. You know, the very nice Austrian tradition, Adventmarkt. So
Certainly.
we meet us shortly in the middle of Vienna, and I'm very happy about that because it's a shame we live theoretically all in Vienna, and I don't see them for 2 or 3 years. You know, and that's the nice point. If you start to be retired,
Already
you can
making me a
manage
bit
it better.
conscious
Mhm.
here. I think I let
Yeah.
you go and head out for the Christmas market. Yeah, thank you for the
Thank
great
you.
interview, and it was a great interview. Thank you, Christoph.
Okay, and that's the end of the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. It was really nice listening to it again. Once again, really well done, Jürgen. And yeah, what are your final thoughts on Christian's take on it all and his career?
Yeah, I just say go for his homepage, seaplanes.at, and get familiar with there's also great picture right on the homepage. It's really, yeah, I think this picture says more than 1,000 words. And there's a contact button, and go for it. you, I think the interview was quite addictive for seaplane maybe lovers in the future in space.
Yes, I looked at the website as well. There's some amazing shots. And the thing that really stood out for me in the interview was when he said there's a place in the world where there's 600 seaplanes sitting on the ground. in one
It's
place.
amazing.
I mean, that's like, that's like a major international airport. That's like the same kind of operation, just with seaplanes. I never knew this existed. I'm definitely gonna Google this after we finish here and see if there's some YouTube videos where I can watch this.
And I mean, imagine this community there. I mean, 600 seaplane lovers or even more. This must be, as I pointed it out in the interview, this must be something like Seaplane City. Imagine evenings in this city. Every restaurant, every place you go, there is seaplane.
Yes, and
I just can imagine it. Like this is crazy. It just, I think if you are into this, this is really a must-have been.
Yeah, absolutely. And imagine everywhere you go, you probably bump into another pilot, which maybe some people find annoying. I think my wife would, but for me, would be amazing.
Heaven for seaplane lovers.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I was mentioning Flight Simulator in the beginning. I don't know but I think there are still plenty of really good sceneries to get, so to say, literally speaking, the feet wet into this topic in Flight Simulator. Back in the years, they were already up there, I think, in Canada or Alaska. I think there were third-party sceneries. I don't know. I read it. This is almost decades ago, but there must be still, maybe even now with standard sceneries, I don't know, Flight Simulator 2024, but I think really there also must be a good way to get at least a little bit an impression of what it's all about, because I mean the scenic or the landscape and everything, it must be just awesome. And also Alaska, as I said, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some seaplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I tried some of them. In fact, I don't know if you know this. There's one big. I've forgotten the name. I'm sorry. It's not my part of aviation. One of those big yellow firefighting planes, where you land.
Oh,
Where you
This is a real seaplane, I guess.
yes, where you suck up the
I
water.
think it's not on float. I think it's not on float. It's
Yeah,
something like I don't know.
yeah. I tried it. I tried to do firefighting. Unfortunately, I flew straight through the plume of the fire. Which apparently is not a good idea because I lost both engines, so that didn't go so well. But you can do it in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and like you said, the scenery in some parts of the world is just breathtaking, really, really beautiful.
I think flying boat is the right term here. But as I said, I'm also not a Ask Christoph for the details and also for the I think it's really a world of aviation on its own, which very, very few pilots ever explore. So for me, this was really Christoph. It's really interesting. I mean, I knew that he was flying normal Cessnas or normal planes, but really with the seaplane, this is something that is quite amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting career, interesting man. I'd love to sit down with him one day, person to person, and have a drink and chat flying. I think that would be really interesting and very enlightening.
I mean, I knew certainly before the interview about his seaplane thing, but when we first met, by the way, I should have asked Christoph about this. This must have been over 20 years ago. I was besides the World Cup climbing in the IT, and he introduced me he worked back then for Icarus security software, and by the way, I still use their software. He brought me to the software, and and short afterwards, somehow we found out that we are both pilots, and one thing led to the other. And now we are doing an interview for aviation-quest.cc. Yeah, great stuff here going on. And I'm already looking forward maybe for a next guest. All I can say, I already got a tentative date here or tentative appointment in my calendar. And maybe in 2 weeks from now, there will be the next interview. And until then, maybe 1 or 2 more podcasts. with the two of us, Stefan.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take it easy. We don't want to rush things. And whenever someone is happy to talk to us, we'll build our podcasts around their schedule. We are very flexible. Whenever they have time, we make time. So yeah, we're gonna see when the next interview will happen.
I think this was a good reminder. If you want to be interviewed, if you think you'd be a good guest for an interview here with some amazing aviation stories, or you know somebody, amongst your friends or in the family, aviation@aviation-quest.cc is our email address, aviation-quest.cc, the homepage. And yeah, we'd be happy also for YouTube comments to have more guests here. And I'm already looking forward for the next episodes and say, yeah, my last words are certainly thank you, Stefan, for your time, and thank you, Christoph, for your time. It was an amazing interview. Thank you, Christoph.
Yes, for me too. Big thank you. And yeah, hopefully, as always, many happy landings and safe flying.
Thank you for listening to Aviation Quest CC, Stories from Above. For more information about this episode and everything we do, visit our homepage, aviation-quest.cc. We appreciate your time and support, and we'd love to have you back for the next episode. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and keep your passion for aviation flying high.